Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. National Security Minister assures relations between TNT and Venezuela remain strong and negotiations continue for the release of 8 adults. Trinidad and Tobago and Spain in talks to mutually aid each other in the fight against crime. And the Prime Minister announces the first ever Shouter Baptist Secondary School to be constructed at the annual Spiritual Baptist Shouter Liberation Day celebrations. Thank you for joining us. Top of the news this hour. National Security Minister Senator the Honorable Gary Griffith is assuring relations between neighboring Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago remain unaffected by the current impasse with government and protesters. This as 22 Trinidad and Tobago nationals were held by Venezuelan authorities in March over alleged involvement in the protests. Retired Rear Admiral Richard Kelshall, along with immigration officers and other foreign affairs diplomats, visited the neighboring South American state for talks that resulted in the release of 8 children and 6 adults from a party of detained Trinidad and Tobago nationals in Venezuela. Speaking with News 4, Minister Gary Griffith says while they returned home on Friday, this was as a result of strong and amicable talks between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago authorities.
It is indeed surprising and indeed unfortunate that there has become this perception that the government of Trinidad and Tobago is not doing all that is possible in regards to those individuals who are still detained in Venezuela. I think I can actually go through the whole process and we can see that we have gone above and beyond. We'll always have situations where local residents from Trinidad and Tobago may be arrested, apprehended in other countries. That does not mean in any way that it will affect relationship with that country. Likewise, we will always be involved in arresting citizens from all countries and all over the world based on illegal activities. And when they are arrested, those things can and should not be seen as affecting relationships with those countries. In fact, it actually fosters good relationships because it shows that we have actually done the job and we have arrested individuals who may have been enemies of the state in that country. And what we do, however, is to ensure that there's proper negotiation, there's proper dialogue, that the persons who are arrested, we can ensure that those individuals get the proper treatment and communication is passed on to that neighboring country. And this is what the Venezuelan authorities, they have indeed done. Just by them accommodating Trinidad and Tobago, agreeing to our delegation, high-powered delegation of experienced and qualified persons to go to Venezuela to see what can be done, that alone speaks for itself to show that the Venezuelan authorities are fully supportive and intend to work with us.
The minister adds that Trinidad and Tobago continues to abide by proper diplomatic relations in negotiating the release of the 8 additional adults who are still detained in Venezuela pending additional investigations.
We acquired the aircraft from the Trinidad and Tobago Air Guard, sent them immediately to Venezuela, upon which we did everything that was possible, and the results showed it was because of that negotiation, it was because of our proactivity that we were able to immediately get the release of the 8 women and the 6 children that they were held in Venezuela. And then, in addition to which, we continue to work and to ensure the possible release of the 3 imams. So it is really unfortunate that statements will be made that we have not done as much as we should. I will ask anyone to say or recommend what else it is that we can do. But we have done everything that is possible.
Meanwhile, he adds that they continue to seek the advice of those who possess the experience of handling such situations, while at the same time respecting the Venezuelan authorities' wishes.
We also need to understand that we need to respect the sovereignty of Venezuela. Their justice system must be respected in similar manners. If anything happens with our law enforcement officers and our officials arrest anyone from any other country, that country has obviously to understand and respect the authorities of Trinidad and Tobago based on what may have happened. So it will be inappropriate for us to do anything more than we can and should do. So anyone to say or recommend anything that can be done that we have not yet done. We have been very successful in how we have operated. We hit the ground running. We were able to get across to Venezuela, be involved in a lot of negotiation, a lot of dialogue, and this might not have happened if we did not do what was required. So what we we have done everything that is possible. We were able to release the women and children, but we must respect the sovereignty of Venezuela. We must respect their authorities, and but we will continue to have dialogue with them to see what can be achieved.
Remaining with news of national security, Trinidad and Tobago and Spain are strengthening ties in the area of national security. This as the Minister of National Security, Senator the Honorable Gary Griffith, met with His Excellency Jose Maria Fernandez Lopez de Rizo, Spain's ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, to discuss ways in which both countries can assist each other in the fight against crime.
Senator the Honorable Gary Griffith, Minister of National Security, has held talks with His Excellency Jose Maria Fernandez Lopez de Rizo, Ambassador of Spain to Trinidad and Tobago. The purpose of their meeting at Minister Griffith's Abercrombie Street office was to discuss the further bilateral relationships between Trinidad and Tobago and Spain. According to a media release from the minister's office, it has been proven in the past that sharing intelligence between the two countries and by working together on drug interdiction operations in particular, ample assistance is given to both law enforcement bodies. Officers on both sides in the past have yielded significant results in drug interdiction exercises. The media release stated that based on past joint operations and intelligence sharing between local agencies, about 800 kilos of cocaine worth an estimated street value of US $360 million have been seized. Some of the local agencies to have collaborated with the Spanish police include the Organized Crime, Narcotics and Firearms Bureau (OCNFB) and the Transnational Organized Crime Unit. Minister Griffith has affirmed that this approach must continue to extend beyond TNT borders to ensure stronger communication links and operational collaboration with international law enforcement agencies. Ambassador Jose Maria Fernandez Lopez de Rizo took up his diplomatic residence in Trinidad and Tobago in January. Felicia Wilson, More News 4.
More news after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Tough decisions must be made for the greater good. That's the message from Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar in her address at the Spiritual Baptist Shouter Liberation Day celebrations in Malonia earlier this week. Now, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar also made a declaration that the first ever Shouter Baptist secondary school will be constructed by her government. Delivering the feature address at the Spiritual Shouter Baptist Day celebrations in Maloney, the Prime Minister says celebration means the value of freedom. She adds celebration means that the oppression and indignity of the past will not be forgotten.
Celebration means that we accept our duty to commemorate what we have achieved together and ensure that our children and our young men and women understand what it took to secure their future. It is always a privilege for me to celebrate this day with you all, where we stand together as equals before God, as brothers and sisters of this one parent nation of ours.
The Prime Minister said through the Shouter Baptist struggle over the years, they have helped to make our nation truly free.
I was very blessed to be baptized in the Shouter Spiritual Baptist faith. I was a young child, and as in the skit, I remember the mother who tied my head when I was baptized and docked in the Queen Anne beach in the waters there. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. And because of that, I understand from whence you have come, because I have walked that pathway too. I know your struggles. And I'm very proud that when I was in the government of Mr. Basti Pandey, we came right here. I was then Minister of Education. Our Archbishop was a great fighter. Let us commend her today. Celebrate Archbishop Garba.
Mrs. Persad-Bissessar said their principles guided them to triumph, and today we stand together, proudly celebrating the strength of conviction and the freedom you justly earned. She further stated that she has learned from these struggles and that each day she is guided by their strength and determination, even as she faced challenges.
We have to make our voices heard to get the things done that we want done. And whilst as a government we will help you, you have to help us too. Because one hand cannot clap. And in your faith and in mine, we clap a lot. We sing a lot. We celebrate a lot. So we must bond together, to work together, to improve your community as we work to improve all the communities of Trinidad and Tobago.
Mrs. Prasad Bisesa also promised that the first ever Shouter Baptist Secondary School will be constructed by her government, but their support is needed to achieve this.
Archbishop Barbara Gray Burke did not stop with getting the piece of land here. We came, handed over the deeds for the land. I was then Minister of Legal Affairs. Then I went into education. We started work on the school, but the rest is history. It took me to come back into government to make sure that we built the St. Barbara's primary school next door. And with that commitment, together with the dedication of Archbishop Burke and others of your faith, today I am very proud to return to open the Early Childhood Care Center here. And God willing, I pledge to you, I will help you build the first ever spiritual Shouter Baptist secondary school on these lands that we gave to you.
Joseph Lopez, News 4. More news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sports News Now. The TT Pro League is set for an exciting climax despite a 5-point W Connection lead at the top of the standings. At least 4 teams still have a mathematical chance of grabbing the title, with officially 5 rounds of matches remaining. 2 of those teams clashed on Tuesday night, and Wayne Cunningham has the highlights from Couva.
Point Fortin Civic FC and the Defence Force are 2 teams in contention for the Pro League title, and they met in the feature match of a doubleheader at the Atto Boland Stadium on Tuesday night. The military with 13 points off the pace set by the leaders W Connection, but the key is the 4 games they have in hand. Point, on the other hand, sat 9 points adrift, so a win would aid both teams in their quest. Civic went hard at it and rocked the post of Karen Graham in the 3rd minute to make the early statement. The Defence Force settled in and made some inroads of their own, and only some fine defending by Wesley John stopped this effort from Jerwin Baltazar from going in. It took 31 minutes for the deadlock to be broken. Kelvin Modest slapping past Graham to make it 1-0 Point Fortin. And that was the score at the end of the half. Ten minutes into the second period, Wesley John made it 2-0 for Reynold Carrington's team with a well-taken header. The Point fans were probably counting the points, but the Army had other ideas and they came storming back. First, through Devon Jostling in the 63rd minute, as he followed up well. Two minutes later, it was all tied up, courtesy substitute Josimar Belgrave. Check out the dummy by Jostling off the Kerry Joseph Centre to set up Josimar. The comeback was complete in the 75th minute. The other substitute, Bolandimo Julius, punching one past Marvin Phillip to make it 3-2 and seal a win for Russ Russell and his men. In Game 1 at the Atterbury, two teams at mid-table went in search of some much-needed points as Police faced Caledonia AIA. The lawmen got on the board first through Joel Lewis in the 22nd minute. That was cancelled out in the 35th minute by Nathan Lewis. Much to the dismay of Police coach Richard Hood. 1-1 the score, going in at the halftime whistle. The chances were even in the second period, and any team could have grabbed the winner, but it was Caledonia doing the needful 6 minutes from time through Keon Edwards. AIA with a 2-1 win, but they will have to do a lot more to get out of the bottom three. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Well, whatever happens from here on, the West Indies cricketers proved that they are masters of the shortest form of the game. The regional side registered an impressive 82-run win over Pakistan in the T20 World Cup on Tuesday by excelling in an all area of the game. And then some. Here's a look at how it was done.
Togetherness. Touch batting. Big hitting. Tight bowling. Expert fielding. And catching. Top class glove work. And of course, the dance moves. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Wow, I wish I had those skills, but I'll stick to news. We take a break. More news when we return. Welcome back. The Ministry of Science and Technology has opened another Information and Communication Technology Center in the scenic northern village of Cumana. Dr. the Honorable Rupert Griffith was present as his ministry celebrated the launch of the second ICT center for the year.
They now have an access center where they can do their homework assignments because this village did not have Wi-Fi Now they have Wi-Fi. They can come in this beautiful environment, sit down and do their homework. So children, congratulations.
The residents of Kumana now have access to technology and government services, all at the same place. This, as Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. The Honorable Rupert Griffith, has ensured his constituents in the Toko-Sangre Grande area are not denied the same technological privileges afforded to more urban areas. Addressing the residents, Dr. Griffith says the service will totally change the lives of residents in remote areas of the country.
With each ICT center that we connect, we bridge the digital divide by bringing basic ICT services such as computer connectivity, government services, and industry training to the people. Now, you know, people living in this part, if they have to take the simplest exercise to get a renewal of maybe a passport or a driver's license, or even for the senior citizens to get their life certificate, they would have to go to the nearest center, sometimes in Sangre Grande, and other times as far as Arima and beyond. They will be able to come to these centers and access that service right here. So I think the people of Kumana deserve a round of applause for the service that's brought to their doorstep.
The Science and Technology Minister reveals the facility is just one of many which will be opened throughout the country within the next 2 years.
This facility is one of the many community-based information and communication technology centers that government is establishing throughout Trinidad and Tobago. That will transform the lives of citizens by making technology accessible to all. A total of 44 community-based access centers are to be rolled out over the period 2013 to 2016 in Trinidad and also Tobago, bringing essential technology services to all citizens, especially those who live in underserved areas in the country.
Minister Griffith reveals 4 more of these facilities are scheduled to be opened before the end of this year.
6 of these access centers will be operating and opening their doors this year, with the very first one already opened on February 11th this year by the Honorable Prime Minister in Penal. The other centers will be rolled out in the short medium term.
The Ministry of Science and Technology is aiming to achieve a knowledge-based Trinidad and Tobago with these facilities. They expect that the nation will be driven by the innovative use of information and communication technologies to enhance social, economic, and cultural development. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
And that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report. I am Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.